Hey guys, it's Ken here, and today you're listening to the Autism Experience podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show so far. Today, for Mother's Day, I have a special interview with my mother where I talk to her about her experiences raising me, an autistic child, some of the challenges she faced raising me, and just some thoughts on what raising me taught her and what it did bring into her life. It's a really wonderful interview that helps you guys get to know a bit about how I grew up and really get a sense of my love and appreciation for my mother. See, my mother, she's a very confident, a very compassionate, and a very comforting parent that I love so much. Because there are times in the past where I didn't feel well, physically, mentally, and she was someone that I could count on, someone who successfully guided and nurtured me through all those tough years that I've gone through. And to be honest, I wouldn't be here without her. So thanks to her and all those wonderful, strong mothers out there doing the hard work, because parenting is no easy job, especially when you have an autistic child, though, for sure. Because I think parenting, to me, is the most underappreciated yet crucial job for anyone to take on. Because a lot of a child's development and success starts from the home. And it certainly did with my parents and me. Particularly with my mom. So happy Mother's Day to all. And I look forward to getting started. Now, before I get into it, I promised in the previous podcast, which you can guys check out on Spotify or whatever you use to access my podcast, I promised that from here on out, I'm going to be reading a review, from one of you guys, though. So for my previous podcast, when I had my sister on to talk about her experiences growing up as a sibling of autistic brother, me, and what I brought to her for a special podcast for Autism Awareness Month, or Autism Acceptance Month, as most people call it. So for that, I got a review for that podcast from Hita and Ayu. For anyone who's been following my Instagram, you might remember her as the host of the podcast Parenting Made Special, which I was featured on, where she talks a lot about autism and just raising autistic children and just the whole cultural, social issues regarding autism in the context of Singapore, which is where she's based at. And I was on her podcast a while back where I talked about my experiences as an autistic adult and shared what was it like growing up as an autistic child and how did I get to where I am now. So, wonderful podcast. If you guys want to check it out, you can check out my link tree, check out my Instagram profile and go into my link tree to get all the details. So, Ethan and Ayu left a review comment which says, "Just finished listening to the episode. You both have such an amazing sibling bond and respect to your family for being such a strong pillar for each other. So much love. Do keep creating more content, Ken. Love to hear more from you." Thank you so much. Ethan and Ayu. I really appreciate it, and I'm really grateful, to hear that though, because definitely I think my bond with my sister is pretty much definitely a highlight in my life so far, and definitely a strong one that I'll cherish. Because I hear a lot about how siblings just don't get along as they get older, and it's the case for many people, but for me and my sister, we get along, we still talk to each other, and I'll admit, they weren't easy times, growing up. My sister's bipolar, and I'm autistic. We all had our own challenges, and then my mom was just trying to just juggle these things like, man, how do I deal with two kids, that have learning disabilities or mental health challenges? How do I deal with that? But then again, she did it all, and she succeeded. And my sister and I, we're still close, and it's definitely something that it's really shaped my life into what it is, because she was also a really strong figure in my life too, besides my mom. And she's someone I'm grateful for. So if you guys haven't listened to that podcast where I have my sister on, do check it out. It has a lot of interesting conversations that I dive into regarding my connection with my sister and her experiences growing up with me, and a lot of things that we talk about, ranging from bullying to parenting and just what it means to, be an open-minded person, though, which is what the spirit of autism advocacy is all about, being open-minded. So do check that out. And that's it for this review. So speaking of review, I want to let you guys know that I really love hearing feedback and hearing your thoughts on this show. So leave a review on whatever platform you use to access this podcast. YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, whatever that may be. Because with reviews, I not only get to hear what you guys think, which helps me get feedback on what can I do to improve this show, or perhaps hear what you guys like about it and really stay in touch with what you guys love about it. And also help bring more attention to this show, because with more reviews means more attention, and more attention means more sponsors and more opportunities to really expand this show, which means potentially having more guests on and just more opportunities to talk about the content in really exciting and new directions, though. So really great opportunities to expand and help the show grow. So write a review, share this podcast as always, and for the next episode, guys, I'll pick a random review to read, at the beginning of the podcast. So do keep that in mind. And with that said, let's get started with the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back. So here I am with my mom, where we're going to be talking a lot about my upbringing, some of the challenges she faced raising me, and her honest reflections on the overall experience. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this, because I always felt like throughout my journey, you have been really part of my upbringing and success. And it speaks a lot to the resilience and the love that you've shown to me as a mother. So, Mom, thank you so much for taking the time to come sit with me.
Okay, you're welcome.
Oh, of course. I guess one of the first things I wanted to go to is back to when I was born. Because I remembered, in previous conversations that I've had with you in the past, I remembered, I guess I was diagnosed with autism around my early years, 2 or 4 years old. When you first got the news that I had autism, I was wondering, how did you feel about all of this? Were there any signs, perhaps, that suggested that I was different from other kids? What do you think?
Well, though, I'm not sure about the sign of autism. I just thought maybe you were, hyperactive, very active.
Mm-hmm.
Active kid, and also you didn't have that much of a speech development when you were 3 or 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't talk like normal 3 or 4 year old kid would talk. So I thought, he's kind of slow on the speech development. And I talked to some people, and they said, it's normal, because some boys sometimes tend to have a later speech development than compared to girls, or some kids don't talk until they turn 5. So maybe that's the case. I even thought maybe he has a case of attention deficit disorder or attention
ADHD.
Hyperactivity disorder.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I thought. I never really confirmed it with medical experts. Not really sure. I mean, you're still healthy, running around, being active.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see. So, at the time, there were signs, but you weren't sure about it. But when did you get to a diagnosis? Because you saw all of this happen, and there has to be something that led you to believe that, you need a diagnosis.
Yeah, when you start kindergarten, just say the first day or the first week of school, teacher kind of call and say, hey, your kid's kind of really active in the class. He won't sit still. He start running around, blah, blah. And so I think he may be eligible for an observation to be, evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, let's have that done. And they scheduled with the school psychologist, and they did some testing, observation. And the conclusion after that observation, they said, yeah, you have a case of mild autism. So that's how I said, oh, okay, that's new to me. Because I thought, oh, he just happened to have a case of ADD or ADHD, but that's autism. Yeah.
That's
So I
interesting.
started learning about it and all that stuff. So,
Did you like read or look up?
yeah,
Do you have
read
anything?
about it, do all kinds of reading, blah, 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 read through, and then watch some interviews, yeah. And then go to certain seminars, like for parents with kids that have autism. Kind of learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now that you knew a bit about autism back then, when you started going through all these trainings and all of that, what did you expect, when it came to raising me? Just looking far ahead, or perhaps...
It's sort of like you set out some kind of a pattern so that you have to stick to a certain routine,
Rigid.
Yeah, because you're so rigid, right? You have to like follow a certain routine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if anything breaks up with your routine, you get kind of like distressed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, establish some kind of routine.
Behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be consistent too, because with autistic kids, they like consistency. They want consistent. They want the same message, the same consistent information.
Yeah. There must have been a lot for you to take on, considering that I'm not like other kids, which meant I had to be raised a little bit differently. How challenging was it just to kind of raise me initially, growing up?
It's a challenge because, first of all, you have an older sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this sister, there's this system. You tell her something and she does it. And for you, when you tell her something, you have to reinforce it. If you don't do it, there's this consequences.
Uh-huh.
And then you set certain kind of, rules. Oh, you do this. And sometimes you have to keep repeating over and over. For you, you have to like be consistent and repeat the thing so that it kind of gets to you. And also sometimes with autistic kids, sometimes they process information the same way as an average kid would, right?
Yeah, typical.
So that sometimes you tell them something, they assume they understand, but they don't. So you kind of like keep saying over and over again. And
right.
Yeah. So it's a challenge. It's like a test.
Was there any point during your raising me that you really felt overwhelmed, like you really couldn't handle this on your own? And if so, how did you deal with it? Did you do it alone, perhaps, though?
Well, because you have to, during your... Yeah, so you get transferred to a different school, right? Because of that. So, in this school, the classroom is a smaller size compared to regular class size. So this class has about, 8 or 10 kids. It's smaller.
Very small.
And so it's easier because for autistic kids, they do well in a smaller group. With a large group, they tend to be overwhelmed and they don't know how to interact with a large group. So they tend to be intimidated. So with smaller group, they feel more comfortable. Yeah. And at first you don't blend into the class. You kind of like, you set away from the class until, I don't know, at some point the teacher... okay, yeah, he's there, but at least he's doing something, give something to distract you with or that you play with. And eventually you cannot join the group because you feel comfortable enough to join the group with a new teacher. Yeah.
I remember, like, when I was younger, like, I used to, I don't know what it is, but, like, I guess I had moments where I acted weird in a way where, like, I just didn't understand. And I was curious about whether you were aware of any of that. Because I had some episodes, this was before I was transferred out to a different elementary school.
Yeah.
Where I did weird things, like I burped a lot in class or something like that. I don't know, I guess I just made noises.
Yeah.
Or like even in preschool, I apparently liked to run around. I didn't want to go to sleep like all the other preschoolers.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sent home for some reason.
Yeah.
With Dad. Do you recall any of that?
Yes.
And
teacher called and say, hey, your kid is acting up, so can you come and pick him up?
Yeah.
And so Daddy had to come and pick you up. And that's what happened. And so when I came home and said, what's wrong? Said, well, teacher called and says he's misbehaved or acted up in class, like make noises or do something, so he's not sitting still. The things you don't sit still very, very long. So attention span is very short. Yeah.
I remember Dad just looking at me like, what did you do wrong? Because because he thought like, oh, every phone call from the principal's office means something bad happened. I remember the look on his face. He was like, Karen, what did you do wrong? You messed up. He was confused. He was like, what is going on? Why is my son getting so many calls about it? I mean, that makes me wonder, how much does Dad know back then, like about nature?
Well, he just thought you were just a hyperactive class until the diagnosis. Then I had to explain to him because he didn't understand what autism means, and okay, explain this and that and that. It's a long process. And then also, yeah, back to the question, is it a challenge? Yeah, because I mean, I heard about autism kids way before this, but kind of like wasn't paying attention into it that much. Oh, maybe just a different kind of a development disability, yeah. Until, yeah, and then I had to read about it until you came along. And then, okay, yeah, explore and join some seminars when they talk about autism kids. And okay, so that's how they behave because the way the brain works. So, yeah. And then also go to the county because they had like a little seminar for parents with kids, autistic kids. So you go to that seminar.
Yeah.
And they give you information to read about or, learn about it. And, yeah, and talk to the teacher too. Teacher in your class.
It makes sense though. Like it seems like you, compared to like everyone else's family, you took on a lot of the burden just trying to understand it and figure it out and explain it. Because I think there are times where I think Dad sometimes he was confused about how to, really raise me because he wasn't sure about this. And I feel that compared to people, like it really was challenging on you for the most part because you attended most of the IEP meetings,
doctor's
appointments too, and a lot of all of that. And it must have been, it must have changed, the way you had to do things in the house a lot significantly. Wouldn't it be so?
Well, for one thing, you were a very hyperactive kid, so try to keep things, let's just say, safe. For example, they like to play in the kitchen a lot, and the kitchen has the stove, the gas stove, or the electric stove. So things I have to make sure that things are out of reach for you, that you can't touch or something. So I make sure so to keep you out of mischief or.
I was really that curious.
or accident or anything. Yeah, we have to keep gas lighters away from you. They like keep things outside because you're very active. Like get your hands into anything, very active. Even with the heater, you like to stuff things inside the heater, so it's big noises, and we have to disassemble it to get those toys out. You stuff toys and pencils and whatnot into the heater.
Yeah, man. I remember at one point, like I think it was when I was a kid, I would play around with there's a rice cooker. I would put my hand over it, and then it got steam like.
Okay, so you're testing things out.
Yeah, and I was like, and then I remember my skin was so burned, it was damaged with it, and I didn't want to admit it because I was just afraid of just being called like a bit mischievous. I don't want to be outed as a guy who puts his nose into things he probably doesn't know about. And so I remember lying and saying, oh no, I was helping Mom in the kitchen. Yeah, because I remember, when we used to have these talks, like you'll be like, Ken, you lied. And like, what was going on there? Like, there was an incident where I told this to my first grade teacher, and she's like,
Miss Gillette.
Yeah, Miss Gillette. And she was like, did Ken really help you cooking?
No. You played around.
And then I guess even to this day, you're like, Ken, you lie. You must have done something. But now you know the answer. I was playing with the rice cooker. I was like, oh, what's all this steam coming out? I was like, I thought I was going to warm my hand the way you put your hand over a fireplace. And I was like, but that steam was so hot, it just charred part of my wrist.
Okay.
And I didn't want to admit that I made a mistake.
Okay.
I know.
Yep. Miss Gillette knew about that.
Yeah. I guess you had to deal with a bunch of similar incidents for much of my childhood.
Yeah. You were into mischief. Yeah, sure. You flushed toys down the toilet, for one thing. And we had to unplug the toilet or remove the toilet. took it to the backyard and tried to get the toy or the pen that was stuck inside the little bowl, toilet bowl, and get it out. Try to get it out. Yeah, and yeah, it caused quite a clog. And we became an expert in how to remove the O-ring in the toilet, the wax ring in the toilet bowl. Yeah.
That's another skill on Dad's resume.
Yeah, we became an expert how to remove the toilet.
Yeah. I think that's why Dad's the handyman now, because I mess up so much that he had to learn new skills just to watch over me. Oh man. Like every day I'm always messing something up and he has to learn how to unmess it up. Yeah. I think one of the things that I felt really contributed to where I am now is that you kind of encouraged me to read more and be well educated. As I'll admit, I feel like I got my analytical, well-read side from you, and just being involved in what's going on in the world, just being considerate of all that. I think I got it from you, pretty much for the most part. And one of the things I wondered was, what led you to believe that reading and writing was kind of my way up, though? Because you did emphasize that a lot growing up, and I felt it played a big role. I mean,
well, because reading is a way for you to build vocabulary. Remember, you had speech development delays, and that's how you need to. That's one of the ways to build vocabulary, and the way to build vocabulary is to read. You learn new words, you have to ask, what does it mean, and the story. So the minute you learn more vocabulary, you develop language better. Your speech is better, becomes better. Yeah. So, and usually kids have trouble in school because they don't understand what they read. So reading is sort of an essential part in your learning. Yeah. So my mission is to make you read.
Yeah. I remember you had me just reading a bunch of books that you recommended, and sometimes I'll be a little stubborn, a little bit on the stubborn side, just not wanting to read your books and not wanting to do your book reports, which I felt, to be honest, quite frankly, it is kind of tedious. But I guess it helped with writing, improving my writing ability in the long run, so I guess it paid off, but I guess I'm really grateful, and now I'm reading on my own.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so.
Okay, yeah.
But, I mean, because it's kind of interesting because I think back then when I was younger, I guess I wasn't really good with reading or writing. Not to mention, I didn't have really high scores on these tests they had to do. And there are a lot of kids, in my position who probably, could only dream of being able to read and write. Because there's some that don't. And I've always wondered, what was there anything that indicated that I had some potential to actually overcome speech impediment, reading and writing, that I was capable of overcoming it and actually be successful in
Well, I'm thinking
being able
for
to read
kids, to get them engaged in reading, you have to choose something that they like. That's all. Seeing that you like comic books, right? So you got Calvin and Hobbes, and you get those Captain Underpants. You like those?
Yeah.
What else you like? Those
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh!
I remember those. Yeah.
So then you get your interest in reading. So beyond, and after that, you kind of get into other stuff like Harry Potter and other fiction stuff. So
yeah.
So get you engaged in something that you like. Yeah, comic books, for example, and then expand beyond that. And also you're interested in dinosaurs, for example. So you like to watch those documentaries. So that too build your knowledge and understanding of the science or the world. Yeah. Yeah, dinosaurs were your favorite animals when you were a kid. Yeah. So you have a collection of them. Yeah.
I think it's just really amazing. There's just so much around in this house that really encouraged me to grow and read. Tons of movies, books, and music, and I think that kind of really helped me grow. Now that I think about it, though, just being exposed to all of that and then being encouraged. I think you've played a part in encouraging me to do all of that. Although I did have some lapses, I played video games a lot more than I should be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and although I'll admit that much of those bad habits I've had with video games and all that, it all came from just feeling incompetent for I remember being bullied a lot in school, and video games was kind of my escape from all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, speaking of bullying, I was wondering, were there any signs that you noticed that something was afoot? You know, in regards to how I was treated at school and like that. Because I did tell you a little bit about bullying, but I'm not sure. Like from your point of view, would you?
Well, you told me something, but not like to the point where it is serious. So maybe the teacher said, "Oh yeah, I intervened and disciplined the student," but I didn't think it was that big, serious. You know, I know that at some point you be bullied because kids will pick out kids. Oh, this kids is from special ed, and they can tell. You know, so
Yeah.
tend to pick on you. So I was afraid of that too, but I wasn't aware that it was such a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of it's because like I was just scared because I didn't feel experienced enough how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention I wasn't sure what I'm supposed to do, like in those situations, and so I'll admit like I kind of kept a lot of that away until a lot later.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like when I got older, that's when I started opening up.
Okay.
But yeah, but
And sometimes you don't even tell what's going on, and you kept it yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's because I didn't know how to like tell things, like be open and stuff. Yeah, and I guess part of it because I didn't feel safe and I wasn't sure that you would understand. And
well, there were days when you come home and say, "What's wrong?" Nothing. I like to be alone, please. That's what you said. I said, okay. Well, you know.
Yeah. But now I've told you about that, and I've kind of passed that. But
hey, you grow up.
Yeah. I kind of wish I told more, but now it's never too late for that. So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, because in spite of all of the challenges that came with raising me, I guess one thing I wonder is what was the best part of raising me? What kept you going? In spite of all the challenges that came with raising.
Well, you do work hard. You do work hard too. Even though I mean, watching you grow and change. So that's a part, and then also it kind of taught me patience. I have to. I mean, I want to be to learn more, get more patient. Yeah, patience, and also kind of like, hey, he has potential, and he can learn, he can improve, he can develop, and you notice the changes through the years, and okay, he learned and he changes and become a better person, and yeah, so it's a reward in itself when you kind of like, okay, wow, the little boy that was so active, so much in trouble, now he's grown up to be more mature, more well-mannered and well-behaved and more responsible. He became more responsible than he used to be. Wow, that's a big change and a big reward in itself. So I'm glad.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I still have a lot to learn, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you're more responsible.
I still have a lot more to learn.
More responsible, more mature, and kind of like more focused. Yeah.
Right.
So that's a reward in itself.
So a lot of patience and just seeing that I've changed over the years just kind of really helped you keep going?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard, but that's just like, okay, he can learn. I know he's smart. You just need to push. You need a little extra push. Because sometimes you complain, oh, I have so much trouble. Why do I do this? Hey, you can do it. Yeah.
And I think that's something that I probably will never understand, that unconditional love and devotion that you've had as a mother.
Hey, you're my son.
Yeah,
so, So it's like, well, he can do that. I know he can. I know he's smart, and it's just that he needs some like discipline, some push, some encouragement, some like, hey, do it. Don't give up. Tell him not to give up. Because sometimes you have some giving up thoughts. And no, that's not that. You can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard at some points. Sometimes the way sometimes you can be like so rigid. No, don't do this. Hey, just do it. You appreciate it later, especially with those books. Oh, I don't want to read. Hey, you appreciate it later because you know in college when you read, there will be college level reading, and this is like a preparation for you. So yeah.
Oh, that's actually good though, because I think all that reading kind of helped prepare me for Kokovich when I had AP class. Because the thing about those AP classes that is a lot of reading, and I remember, I think when I first got into freshman year in high school, I was suddenly put into advanced English, and I was stunned because I didn't sign up for it, but apparently I did so well on the test that I ended up being put in there.
Okay.
And then, but that was just the beginning, and then after that I kept taking more advanced, and then I jumped to AP English.
Yeah.
I passed all those courses though with all A's, and I think that just reading a lot at home just kind of prepared me for that, because by the time I started hitting those classes, I've already done enough reading to the point where I'm just comfortable reading a bunch of 18th century books for weeks.
Yeah, so you skipped 1A, English 1A in college, right? Because you already had that in high school.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It reminded me of something that, what was it? My English 2A teacher said, Lovato, he said something along the lines of, 2A is essentially preparing you for college, because AP English Language and Literature AP are technically college classes.
Yeah.
So 2A is technically preparing you for college. Yeah. It's like I skipped 2 grades.
Right. Because you went right straight into 1B in college, right? You skipped 1A.
Yeah.
So that's saved you 1 semester of 1A, practically.
Yeah. And I could have skipped 1B, but I decided I needed the practice.
Yeah, why not?
So I ended up just doing 1B anyway. So
yeah, okay.
And it was actually easier though than AP courses. Like Kokovich, she had us doing like an essay every 2 weeks.
Wow, yeah.
Whereas for this class, it was just like, just some gentle light reading. Read 3-4 pages a day, and just an essay every month. Like really light stuff. It made college look easier.
Yeah. So do you appreciate Kokovich?
Yeah. I appreciate your all that work that you did to get me to read and do book reports. I felt like that paid off because it was a foundation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would struggle a lot more with Kokovich because she expected a lot of reading out of me, writing out of me. So, and I felt like I owe it to you for encouraging that in me.
Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, because otherwise I would not have dared to even take an AP course. But yeah, a lot of good moments though. And so the last thing I want to ask you is, what are some lessons that you've learned from raising me?
Lesson?
Yeah.
Love, patience, persistence, hard work. Because you are hard work. You do a lot of hard work. Persistence and hard work and patience and love. Lots of love in it. Without love, you can't do.
Yeah.
It's like staying up so late just to get you through homework. It's like, Ken, it's almost midnight. Let's finish this homework.
Right.
It's love. Love is the driver of everything.
Right. Yeah. Like from on the outside, it sounds like you're chastising me, but deep down, you really just wanted me to do well.
Yeah, because it's called tough love. Tough love means you don't just give them sweet candy all the time. You have to discipline them.
You don't give the easy way out. No, you have to push them. You want them to grow. Yeah,
that's true. A parent is the biggest role that God ever created for human being. It's a big role that you don't go to college for. There's no such degree as a Bachelor of Science for being a parent. No, you just have to learn on the go. Learn on the go. Yeah.
Okay, well, Mom, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I really appreciate what you
Okay, you're welcome. It was my pleasure for my boy.
Yeah. And, all right.
Hey, you turned out to be a good person. great kid. So what could I ask for?
Of course. I think there's no greater gift than that.
All right. Well, thank you, my boy.
All right. Thanks, Mom.
Thank you.
All right. So Mom's out. And so here I am. And I got to say, wow, I'm really impressed right now. And I'm just really amazed and really inspired just hearing my mom talk a lot about really what did these many years of raising me really brought to her, and how much of a struggle, yet how much of an enlightening experience it was to raise me. Because, as a kid, I never really thought about these things. I just kind of did my own thing. But then hearing her talk about these things from her point of view really gave me some perspective of how much work it was for her as it was for me to really just understand how to work with me. Because while I might think it was hard for my end, this interview also taught me to really consider from her point of view too, how equally hard it was for her, just trying to navigate raising me, having the patience and love to really just go through it all and not give up, and to really do whatever it takes to really make sure I get my best chance out there. And for that, I'm really grateful for my mom, and I'm really glad that she put in the time to really open up about all this, because I think it's really important, guys, to know about, I guess, a little bit about where I came from and a little bit about different sides of me. Because I've already talked a little bit about my childhood from my point of view, and I thought it was important that you guys get to know about things from my mom's point of view, to kind of see things from another point of view. And perhaps for any of you out there who are parents of autistic kids, perhaps some of this stuff might be things that you could relate to or connect with, or something that you might find helpful. But anyway, I really enjoyed this interview, and I'm looking forward to doing more like this in the future. In addition to some of the solo podcasts where it's me and I go just a general dive into a topic, and pretty much it. So thank you guys for listening, and hope you guys stay tuned for the next podcast. So take care. Hey, thank you guys so much for listening to my podcast. If you guys like this channel, check out and subscribe to it on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you guys get your podcasts. For social media, you can follow my Instagram account at The Autism Experience. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more from The Autism Experience.